Good evening and welcome to the Buncombe County Board of Education regular meeting. At this time, I will call this meeting to order. And please stand for the presentation of the colors and Pledge of Allegiance presented by Robertson High School, JROTC, instructed by Captain Rachel Ingram, currently serving in the United States Air Force Reserve. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I ask you to remain standing for a moment of silence, and I ask that we keep in mind those members of our community who are still struggling in recovery from Hurricane Helene, and those who may be grieving the loss of friends or family. Thank you. You may be seated. First order of business tonight, Board, is the approval of our agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve our agenda as presented.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Fellow board members, before I hand it over to Dr. Jackson for his superintendent comments, I want to take just a quick moment for us to recognize that February is National Black History Month, when we are called to honor the many contributions and sacrifices of African Americans since our country's beginning. From a school board perspective, I find it important to remember that it was in 1954 that the Brown versus Board of Education Supreme Court ruling established that state-sanctioned segregation of public schools violated the Equal Protections Clause of the 14th Amendment. And though Greensboro was the first school system in the South to announce that it would move to desegregated school system, it took many, many years of struggle and advocacy before boards of education across our state would actually adopt and implement desegregation plans. Buncombe County in 1964, Asheville City 1965, Wake County as late as 1970, and notably it took another Supreme Court ruling for Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools to fully develop a desegregation plan in 1971, a full 17 years after the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education ruling. I found it also important to consider that 1970 was only 55 years ago. So though we have indeed come a long way in those 55 years, we still have much work to do. In doing that work, I think it is also important for us to note as a board that we now have the honor to serve on this board alongside Pastor Charles Martin, who in 2024 made history in becoming the first black representative elected to the Buncombe County School Board. So as we move, thank you. So as we move into our work this evening and future board meetings, I feel that we should be very proud of our mission and our vision statement that we have at the top of our agenda that guide us to ensure that each and every student in Buncombe County Schools is fully supported to pursue their chosen path as critical thinkers and collaborative leaders in a diverse society. I also want to quickly recognize that last week was School Counselor Appreciation Week. And I want to say thank you on behalf of our board to all of our incredible school counselors who support our students every day. Your work is so important, and we thank you. This week is also the North Carolina School Bus Driver Appreciation Week. And I want to express my gratitude on behalf of our board to all of our school bus drivers who ensure our students get to and from school safely every single day. Lastly, I just want to mention a thank you to Commissioner Jennifer Horton for the 3 afternoons that she spent this week walking our hallways in our schools at Buncombe County Schools with our students and our staff and board members. I joined her yesterday with Dr. Jackson, where she learned about the great things happening in Buncombe County Schools and also listened to where we need more support. So I want to express my gratitude for Commissioner Horton as well. With that, I'll hand it over to you, Dr. Jackson. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Elliott. Good evening, board members, teammates, parents, and members of the community. Tomorrow, across our country, many will pause to celebrate love. This year, Buncombe County Schools has and continues to receive great love from so many. We celebrate and are so grateful for all of those who have shared their hearts and hands to take care of our students, families, and schools. As we celebrate tomorrow, we thank all of those who continue to realize that there remain great needs in our communities and who continue to help share great love and kindness across Western North Carolina. Since we last met, we had the opportunity to celebrate our reason for being as 248 graduates from our 11 high schools crossed the stage, having earned their high school diplomas. This was the largest cohort of mid-year graduates in school system history. Included in that number are the very first 2 graduates from our newest high school, the Buncombe County Center for Career Innovation. I'm so proud and appreciative of all of our teachers, administrators, and staff members who poured into the lives of these students from kindergarten through 12th grade. Regardless of the pathway they are now on, we are cheering for them as they go out to make a tremendous difference in this world. As Chairman Elliott noted, last week we celebrated National School Counseling Week by pausing to acknowledge and celebrate the amazing school counselors across our school system. Our school counselors actively engage in helping students examine their abilities, their strengths, their interests, and their talents. They work in partnership with parents as they encounter the challenges of raising children in today's world. They focus on positive ways to enhance students' academic, career, and social-emotional development, and they work with teachers and other educators to provide an educational system where students can realize their potential. Our school counselors are an integral part of the total BCS educational program. As mentioned, this week we are honoring our school bus drivers. Each day in our school system, 205 buses safely transport over 11,000 students almost 15,000 miles each day to school and back home again. They transport students on field trips and to athletic contests. This does not occur without our dedicated bus drivers, mechanics, and transportation staff. Our bus drivers are committed to safe, reliable, and efficient transportation for every student, every mile, every day. Our Buncombe County Schools Foundation is excited to announce that it is scholarship season. The foundation provides over $500,000 in scholarships each year. Information on all of the scholarships can be found on the Buncombe County Schools Foundation website. If you know a senior in our school system, please encourage them to apply for these scholarships. Last night, some of our finest middle school and high school student musicians came together from across the county for the 2025 All-County Orchestra Concert. The music they created was magical. As I shared at the concert, music is a gift. It evokes feelings of peace and beauty. This was the gift our incredible students gave the community last night in a time when it is so sorely needed. We're very grateful for our strings teachers and all of our arts teachers across Buncombe County Schools who help our students refine their talents and bring beauty to the world. I'm excited to share with everyone that next week we'll have the opportunity to enjoy the talents of more of our incredible student musicians as our elementary, intermediate, and middle school all-county courses will perform on February 18th at 6 p.m. at Brookstone Church in Weaverville. We invite you to make plans to join us as students from across the county come together in song. To our team and to our board members, thank you for all that you do for the students, families, teachers, and staff of Buncombe County Schools. Mr. Chair, this concludes my comments.
Thank you, Superintendent Jackson. With that, we will move into our good news section. I believe Mr. Ulmer is here. Take it away, Mr. Ulmer.
Thank you, Chairman Elliott, board members. staff members, teammates, and families. We are going to begin good news this evening with a national award for Candler Elementary School that comes from the United States Department of Defense. If Principal Charlotte Clubb and teacher Sergeant Karina Padilla will please come forward and join Miss Lewis. We have Mr. David Rodriguez, who has traveled with us from the employer support of the Guard and Reserve. He's come to be with us tonight for a special presentation. Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, this evening we proudly recognize Buncombe County Schools as the 2024 Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve's Pro Patria Award. This prestigious honor celebrates their outstanding support for our National Guard and Reserve members. Buncombe County Schools, as a leader in this field, has shown exceptional dedication by cultivating a work environment that appreciates the contributions of our citizen soldiers. They offer these individuals the necessary flexibility and support to effectively manage their military and civilian duties. This dedication strengthens our community and sets a shining example for others to follow. Congratulations to Buncombe County Schools for this well-deserved recognition.
Mr. Rodriguez, thank you for joining us, and congratulations to Candler Elementary School. Well deserved. We are honoring some magnificent math students tonight. 6th, 7th, and 8th graders from across the Buncombe County Schools recently competed in the Math Counts competition, which involves solving complex problems individually, and then they've got to go into teamwork mode as well. Mr. Arvey, our district math coach, is going to come down and help hand out our certificates. The third place individual champ, Ms. Clements, if you'll come forward, because he hails from Irwin Middle School. Mr. Lucas McKee, who's joined by his math coaches, Ms. Vaughn and Ms. Wright, along with Principal Travis Collins and Dr. Jackson as well. Come on down. Congratulations to you, Lucas McKee. Got to get the math coaches down, too. Y'all do the training. Congratulations, Lucas. Ms. Franklin, if you'll join us, because our second and first place winners hail from the North Buncombe District. First and second place from one school from North Buncombe Middle School. Second place overall, Charlie Weaver. And Mr. Honeycutt, too. I'm so sorry. Congratulations. But my North Buncombe Middle School people, hold tight, because you've got the first place individual participant as well, Mr. Carlos Gasper Perez. I want to say thanks to math coach Mr. Massey as well, and Miss Smart too. Congratulations to you, Carlos, in North Buncombe Middle School. Got one more Math Counts group because first and second place teams. Teamwork makes the dream work, and these folks had to work together solving complex math problems. The first and second place teams are both from the home of the Rockets. Chairman Elliott, if you will come join us up front, please, along with Principal Wheelis and Math Coach Miss Jones from A.C. Reynolds Middle School, representing the A.C. Reynolds Middle School first and second place teams, Andrew Holmes, Eli Stolte, Sam Pass, other members of the team, Luke Brown, Red Hogan, Max Heineman, Finnegan Kramer, and Oliver Van Steinberg. And Mr. Stanley Wheelis, the principal. Congratulations, first and second place in the team competition of this year's Math Counts competition, coming from A.C. Reynolds Middle School. Congratulations to our Math Counts competitors tonight. Dr. Reed, if you'd come forward to help me with this next piece of hardware, because we're going to go from amazing math students to an amazing math teacher. Every year, only one math teacher in each of the 50 states receives a presidential award for excellence in math and science teaching. And that teacher for math from North Carolina is Leah Jordan of Valley Springs Middle School. Ms. Churchill, if you'll come forward. Leah is here tonight with her principal, Miss Roney, and also Stephanie Hill, the math coach who nominated her. If you will come down as well. Miss Jordan had to go through a rigorous, lengthy, detailed process of sharing her teaching with the National Science Foundation through recorded observations and essays. She's recognized among the tops in the entire country for her contributions to teaching and learning. We're so proud to have her in Buncombe County Schools. Congratulations, Miss Jordan. And finally, for good news this evening, I'd like to ask Christy Cheek of the Buncombe County Schools Foundation and Martha Talent of Buncombe Middle School, our current Buncombe County Schools Teacher of the Year, to honor our new class of Buncombe County Schools District Teachers of the Year. Miss Talent, take it away.
Good evening. So tonight we celebrate the heart and soul of education, our teachers. These exceptional individuals dedicate their life to inspiring and empowering the next generation. Join us as we shine a spotlight on the very best, the educators who go above and beyond and who truly make a difference. You were selected to represent your school first and now your district. This is an opportunity of the lifetime to advocate for the value of education and be the voice for all the wonderful educators of Buncombe County Schools. Congratulations. We'll start with the at-large district. Reverend Martin, if you will please join us, Dr. Jackson and Principal Kathy Haney. This year's at-large district teacher of the year is Zane Weekman of Community High School. Congratulations, Mr. Weekman. Next, if I could have Ms. Franklin, if you'll join us up front with Principal Kevin Yauntz. Our North Buncombe High School District Teacher of the Year is Daryl Fox of North Buncombe High School. Congratulations, Mr. Fox. Congratulations. Our Owen District Teacher of the Year is next. Mr. Cheatham, if you'll join us, and Principal Dawn Rookie will join us up front. Our high school, Owen High School, we honor Jacob Nestor. Congratulations, Mr. Nestor. Congratulations. Chairman Elliott, if you could please join us up front, along with Principal Dr. Bonnie Bellato. We celebrate this year's Reynolds District of the Year teacher is Miss Mary Brantley Womack of Fairview Elementary School. Congratulations, Mrs. Womack. Congratulations. Now, if we could have Ms. Churchill join us to help us present the Robinson District Teacher of the Year alongside with Reggie Bright. This year's Robinson District Teacher of the Year is Kalonda McCarter from Kuntz Intermediate School. Congratulations, Ms. C. Mrs. Lewis, if you could come join us along with Principal Emily Cox. We honor this year's Inca District Teacher of the Year, Carol Patuski of Inca Intermediate. Congratulations. And finally, Ms. Clemens, if you could join us, we're going to honor this year's Irwin District Teacher of the Year, along with Principal Travis Collins. We congratulate Mrs. Tori King of Irwin Middle School. Congratulations, Mrs. King. Congratulations to all of our district finalists, and then might I say, welcome to the family. We'll get to know each other very well.
Congratulations once again. We are going to take some group pictures with Michaela, so if our teachers and our math counts folks will follow Michaela, we'll take some group pictures. And a brief reminder that you can always see everything that's happening in Buncombe County Schools, buncombeschools.org. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Buncombe Schools for all the good news. Congratulations to everybody who came to be honored tonight. And Chairman Elliott, that concludes good news for this week.
All right, thank you, Mr. Elmore, for all that great news. Congratulations again to our district finalists. And can never say thank you enough to our teachers, that's for sure. Up next on our agenda, board members, are strategic plan highlights, career and technical education, and BCS with Michelle Smith and Dr. Jennifer Reed. The floor is yours.
Elliott, Dr. Jackson, and members of the board. I am excited to be able to introduce to you our Director of CTE, Ms. Michelle Smith, to talk a lot more about CTE. We've taken this time to show the board exactly how we're being intentional in the work of aligning our district's strategic plan through various areas throughout our school system, and one of those is career and technical education. Specifically tonight, Ms. Smith is going to highlight work where she has worked within the departments of CTE to integrate Goal 3 and Goal 4 from our strategic plan. And I will just hand it on over to Michelle because she takes the heavy lift in this work, and I can't be more proud of the intentionality behind the integration of the strategic plan and what we're doing to prepare students for the future.
Thank you. I'm very excited to have this opportunity to showcase how CTE is truly a part of our Buncombe County Schools strategic plan, specifically with Goal 3.2. This is where we are working with career development planning, career exploration, mentoring, and guidance to help students identify their interests, their strengths, and goals for life after graduation. We just recently began the assessment with all of our 8th graders in Buncombe County Schools. The hurricane put us a little late with our timeline, so we just recently finished up with interest assessments with all 8th graders and wrapping up Lesson 2, which is looking at career exploration. That leaves us with 3 parts remaining from this part from state legislation to have 8th graders with a career development plan. We have 1,698 graders, and when we complete our career development lessons, all 8th graders will advance to the 9th grade with a good, solid career development plan and classes that get them into the right courses and career pathways at the high school level. On the next slide, this is just showcasing, we do have partnership with our Perkins 5, and this is just showcasing just a few. I was told 10 minutes for this presentation, so if I were to show you everything that we're doing with our business partners, you would not be happy with me. So this is just a glimpse at some of the cool things that are happening, and I'm really excited because at North Buncombe Middle, we just recently had Duke Energy come out, and we had former graduates that were working with our students there and showcasing careers in that line of work, and as you can see, other various business partners that we have. I'm excited. I'm just excited tonight, so I'll try not to say that on every slide, but this is great excitement here because back in previous years, and especially right after COVID, our credential attainment decreased. And, you know, it just takes a while to get that back up and running where it needs to be. If you can see on the chart, we were almost at 1,200 student industry recognized credentials in school year 23-24. Right now, even with you know, the month of school that we missed for fall of 24, you can see we were at 975 students who were earning industry recognized credentials. So I'm very excited. We have, let me go on to this next slide. I said excited again, so I'll try not to do that. On this slide, it shows the 44 industry recognized credentials from the Department of Public Instruction. We had nursing fundamentals at Inca High School with our teacher, Amy Hensley, and we had our CNA students that were taking the CNA assessment, and those students were very successful, and so we now have 10 more students that are going out into industry and have that opportunity to take that credential and actually make, you know, a good living at that and continue their education or whatever their plan may be. We also had ASC, you can see several ASC, which is tied to our automotive programs, and SP2 credentials that are listed here. We have 3 of our high schools that offer automotive, and they just recently, you probably saw on BCS Communications, they all received excellent standings in their evaluation, and that's a very rigorous process. So we are able to continue offering that program at those 3 high schools. Another chart on this next slide, we are growing work-based learning opportunities, and if you're not familiar with that terminology, that consists of internships, job shadowing, lots of different things, pre-apprenticeships that fall under that category. Again, you can see a continual increase over the years. Coming back from COVID, it was very low. Again, trying to get businesses back up and going and develop those partnerships. We have lots of business partners, I believe over 70 that we have at this time, and even had an amazing phone call today with a couple of different business partners wanting to contribute to some of our program areas. And also, we're up to 133 internships for this school year total, and actually that should be 134 because we had one more added today. So wonderful opportunities for our students to get some hands-on career exploration and earn a high school credit through our CTE internship program. Okay, I'm done. Okay. Strategic goal 4, this is where, and I'll go through this really quick, but this is basically where we're going to be very intentional to provide support to our teachers and to our staff so they can be equipped to meet the needs of every student, not just CTE students, but every student that they serve. This is showing you some of our August PD that we had at the beginning of the year, where we had hands-on activities. This was hosted at North Buncombe High School. And then we also have incorporated with the Dogwood grant Paxton Patterson Lab. So the picture on the left-hand side, that's showcasing some of our health science teachers. All of our high schools have 5 modules at least with Paxton Patterson to supplement those health science courses. And this is truly hands-on, drawing blood, working with different components in different career exploration stations as they go through these pathways. We also provide with our career development coordinators, we have one of those at each of our high schools, and we provide coaching to our new teachers. I'm excited that we have a lot of BT teachers this year in CTE and a lot of support that we want to provide so we can recruit and retain those teachers. They're doing an incredible job. Our career development coordinators are doing a great job making sure that our new teachers are provided assistance with classroom management, with professional development, PLCs, just learning the process of being in the classroom and what that involves being in a different school. We also, as part of this strategic plan with Goal 4.3, we are constantly reviewing student data and staff input. So this chart is showing we had over 1,600 student responses based on CTE pathways, and taking that data and looking at it. We did this last year with our comprehensive local needs assessment. We will also be doing that process again this coming school year. That is very important that we have our timelines in place, that we do our due diligence and our research, and we look at the data to see what the labor market needs, to see what career pathways are we still offering the right ones based on what the labor market needs, or do we need to change our pathways up. So this is just showcasing where we're getting student data and diving into that data. Now this next part before I press the button on it, this is a great video that Ken created to represent CTE overall. So this is where I'm ending my presentation. So I'm going to show the video, and then if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Don't get stuck in a rut, spinning your wheels. Time to get geared up to explore a whole world of exciting career possibilities with Buncombe County Schools Career and Technical Education, also known as CTE. BCS high schools offer courses in a wide variety of subjects, such as agriculture and natural resources, architecture and construction, business, marketing, sports marketing and finance, automotive technology, family and consumer science, hospitality and tourism, human services, health science, arts, AV technology and communication, science, technology, engineering and mathematics, manufacturing, and more. Be part of a career technical student organization where you can apply your real-world skills now and compete and learn with students from across the state and around the globe. Gain skills to earn an internship and put your knowledge to work for you. Discover your passion with Buncombe County Schools Career and Technical Education. Learn more from your career development coordinator or school counselor and at buncombeschools.org.
Thank you, Ken, for that amazing video and representing CTE. Does anyone have any questions?
Ms.
Okay.
Smith, thank you so much for that. That was
All
super
right.
informative. For the benefit of folks in the public, myself too, can you just talk a little bit more about the importance of what credentialing means and the importance of it, like, within the whole CTE system?
Absolutely. Credentialing is very important. The state gives us a list for we actually offer 72 courses in CTE here in Buncombe County Schools, and looking for ways to continue to grow that and provide opportunities. The state provides a list, and it's called Industry Recognized Credentials, and we are provided credential funding to where we can purchase credentials for our students to take those assessments. These industry recognized credentials, if you go eat at a restaurant, you probably notice somewhere in that restaurant you see a Serve Safe credential. We offer that credential in our Foods 2 courses. So if it's out in a restaurant, you know that must be pretty important. And it is very important. So our students are actually getting the opportunity to earn that credential, add it to their resume, applications when they apply. And if someone has that credential and I'm applying for that same job and I don't, that just gives them, a bigger lead in that opportunity. So on that one slide, there's, like I mentioned, there's 44 credentials that we are offering, and it varies through CNA, ASC, automotive. Each one of our programs pretty much has a credential that can be offered or earned while the students are in that course.
Yeah, thank you for that. It is really important that the industry recognized part of what you said
Yes.
is very important and very impactful for a student to carry that credential with them at graduation, to go potentially straight into the workforce, with
Right.
a credential straight out of high school, to do all kinds of fascinating things with. So.
All
Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will say, just a point of privilege here, CTE programs don't just appear out of nowhere. They're not free. They cost money. And the funding source for our CTE programs and most of the schools in the state comes overwhelmingly from the federal government, partly from the state, but overwhelmingly from the federal government. So if you care about these kind of important programs in our schools like CTE and the credentialing that we get out of them, whenever you do talk to your elected officials, let them know how important you feel they are, so they hear them from the community as well. Thank you, Dr. Reed and Ms. Smith. At this time, it's time for public comment. With that, our Board Attorney, Dean Shatley, will
Thank you,
give us
Mr.
some advice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. It's time for public comment. As a reminder, speakers will be called in the order in which they signed up, and every speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. There will be a light over there on the dais, and when it turns yellow, you'll have about 30 seconds left, and when it turns red, your time is up. We ask that you refrain from using profane language, making threats, or revealing confidential student or staff information. We do ask that you address the board as a whole, and although board members are listening and taking notes, generally the board does not respond directly to public comment.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Tonight we have 12 public comment. First up is Jenny Reagan. If you could please state your name and which district you live in or school your child attends.
You can come down to the microphone, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Jeannie Regan. I live in Black Mountain, Owen, and my daughter is in the 7th grade. Okay. I'm here to talk about the Epic Book app. I went online and I looked up the list of books that Mums for Liberty has requested to be banned, and I came across this one for our kids in elementary. It's Eric Carle's book, Draw Me a Star. You might recognize him as author of Hungry Caterpillar. In all honesty, I was going to share my incredulity that someone would be offended by this book. Then I remembered that in my house, I have some rules that I know that my daughters peers do not also have. My daughter is not allowed to go to a house that has a firearm. My daughter is not allowed to go to a co-ed sleepover. And most hilarious of all to her is my daughter is not permitted to participate in cheerleading. She knows and understands my reasons. Does she sometimes roll her eyes and wonder why I can't just be like her other friends' mums? Sure, but she knows where the line is. The line is where my moral values intersect with her life. Do I make my rules the burden of other parents? Do I make the other parents follow my rules? And do I do anything that infringes on their right to parent as they see fit? No, I do not. I'm asking for the same consideration here. I'm asking that we not make a decision that parents other people's children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Brad. Please remember to state your name and which district you live in or what school your child attends.
Good afternoon. I'm Brad Camper. I was a pastor before and retired now. And it's just been brought to my attention that there might be some transgender rights people in here. I don't know if they are or not, but the way I feel about transgender people is that they have the right to be transgender themselves, to think about themselves what they want to, but they don't have the right to make others impose their beliefs on others. So they have the right to expect, they do not have the right to expect others to think and impose their beliefs on them, like using their pronouns and stuff. It used to be a saying that said, one's rights ends where another rights begins, and that therefore, the right to have say a transgender boy wants to be in a girl's locker room, that doesn't make him right. He's still a male, and God made him male and female, and that doesn't ever change. So, that I don't think that they have the right to do that. Or and under President Trump, that said the law that there shouldn't be any of that kind of stuff going on, and no boys and girls bathrooms, and no girls and boys bathrooms. And then the law of common sense also says for schools and libraries to take away other books that are that promote transgenderism, the transgender ideology, because most of them, or if not all of them, are contain pornography. And I don't even think you'd want your children reading a lot of those books. And those books are all from kindergarten through 12th grade. And so I would highly recommend that you take out the books and any transgender books that teach your children to, I think a lot of the books that teach that treat transgenderism causes us psychological problems for many kids, and they're not having troubles psychologically because they're wondering about their gender. They're having psychological problems because.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Heather. If you could please come down and state your name and which district you live in.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Heather Crofts. I'm a parent at North Buncombe Middle School. I'm also a member of Moms for Liberty and a member of Brookstone Church. Before becoming a full-time mom, I taught in public education for 8 years as a school adjustment counselor. I'm here to express my concerns regarding the proposed gender support guidelines in our schools. While I fully support the dignity and well-being of every student, I believe these guidelines raise serious concerns about parental rights, student privacy, and the role of education in our community. First, these policies undermine parental authority. Schools should not be making decisions about a child's gender identity without parental involvement. Parents are the primary caregivers and decision makers in their child's life, and any policy that allows or encourages schools to withhold information from parents is a direct violation of their rights. When a child is struggling with identity issues, they need their parents, not a bureaucratic policy that assumes schools know better and use their authority to influence a minor. Second, these guidelines create privacy and fairness concerns, allowing students to use bathroom and locker room facilities and participate in sports based on gender identity rather than biological sex can create uncomfortable and unfair situations. Biological differences are real, and policies that disregard them put both fairness and safety at risk, particularly for female students. Finally, our schools should be focused on academic excellence, not social activism. Test scores are declining, and our teachers are already overburdened. Schools should not be pressured to adopt ideologies that distract from their core mission, educating our children. Sensitive and complex topics like gender identity should be handled by families, not dictated by school policies that may conflict with personal or religious beliefs. In conclusion, while we must treat every student with kindness and respect, we must also respect parental rights, maintain fairness and privacy, and keep our schools focused on education. I pray that you will reconsider these guidelines and prioritize policies that truly serve all students while respecting the values of our families. I pray for sound minds and the Holy Spirit to guide your decision-making. Thank you for that. I also wanted to acknowledge Mr. Honeycutt, who is an amazing principal. He does great in our school. He's great with the kids. He shows up to sporting events, band events, all of that. So I'm very grateful for him. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ronald Gates, please remember to state your name and which district you live in.
Good evening, Board, Superintendent, and to each and every one that is here. I'm Ronald Gates. I am a parent. We are in the Leicester area. I am also a affiliate member with the Family Research Council, along with Judicial Watch, and also the Heritage Foundation. I just want to put on emphasis what is very important. There is a new sheriff in the White House, and that is Donald J. Trump, who has sent on or executed executive orders. Those executive orders were sent to you regarding school policies. And I just want to reiterate some of those executive orders. The first one is this: the enforcement of Title IX under the 2020 title rule, enforcing consistency with President Donald Trump. In other words, boys and boys sports, girls and girl sports. It is for you to adhere to the executive orders because all eyes are on you. Here's number two: ending radical indoctrination in K through 12 schooling. The executive order of January 29, 2025. This order is targeting discrimination, equality ideology, CRT, and gender ideology. That means all books. That means all instructions. That means all education has to be removed out of the school. That means gender LGBT flags. That means all teachings in education. That also means, let's see here, the gender support policy. You might as well shred that. And then also the policy that goes against the Title IX. And so we are expecting that these titles, these executive orders be upheld. The last one is defending women from gender ideology extremism. restoring biblical truth, or let's say this, biological truth. We're an educational system, and you should know, as everybody know, there's only two genders, male and female. There's only boy and girl. You have been pressured to do something that was erroneously wrong against our children. I want to say this in my close: any indirective or undermining will be reported. All eyes are on you.
Thank you.
Gemma Richards, please remember to state your name and which district you live in.
Good evening. My name is Gemma Richards. I am a senior at North Buncombe High School, and I currently serve as the North Carolina State Vice President of Development for Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America. I joined FCCLA in 7th grade at North Buncombe Middle School under the direction of FCS teacher Sherry Peak. She taught me many valuable lessons, but what stuck out to me the most were her commendable actions of kindness and professionalism. She quickly became an incredible role model to me as I began to delve into FCS courses and FCCLA curriculum. Her support laid the foundation for me to go on to do things I never would have thought possible. During my 8th grade year in 2021, I chose to do a competitive event called Interpersonal Communications. To boost the morale of my classmates and teachers during the COVID-19 pandemic, a partner and I hand-wrote personalized notes to every student and faculty member at our school. Although this project was student-led, my advisor, Mrs. Peak, was essential to the process through her courage and directional assistance. In February of that year, after much internal debate, I decided to run for an FCCLA state office position, but only with the stipulation that my advisor would be by my side throughout the whole process. That year, I was elected as the North Carolina FCCLA Vice President of Programs and was fortunate enough to serve another term the following year as membership consultant. Over time, every role, conference, and competition I experienced fueled my growing confidence. This sparked a passion in me to advocate for and to serve others. Last spring, this passion compelled me to run for national office. However, unlike my decision to run for state office 3 years prior, this time the decision had no stipulations. I had been impacted so highly by FCCLA and my former advisor that I no longer felt like I needed an adult to stand beside me through every step. When students experience teacher and administrative support early on, they cultivate confidence strong enough to pursue their passions and overcome challenges with growing independence. So last summer, when I stepped on stage to deliver my national officer candidate speech in front of 3,000 people, rather than holding on to my advisor's hand every step of the way, I held on to newfound confidence born out of the support from my early days in FCCLA. My entire FCCLA experience has opened my eyes to the pivotal need for the presence of CTE and FCS education beginning in middle school. What each of you is doing to support CTE, particularly in the beginning years of a student's CTE journey, is crucial to their skill development and continued involvement. As Buncombe County Schools celebrate CTE Month throughout February, I'd like to thank each of you for the role you play in supporting CTE.
Thank you.
Craig White, please remember to state your name and which district you live in.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Jackson. I'm Craig White, Supportive Schools Director for the Campaign for Southern Equality. I attended the district MTAC meeting in January, where they voted 17-3 to recommend that the board restore immediate student access to the EPIC Digital Library. I hope that the board will vote to approve their recommendation tonight. Last month, I also spoke to you about mirrors and windows, the foundation of the BCS curriculum. Students should see themselves reflected in the books that they read as in a mirror, And books should offer a window into the lives of people and families different than their own. In the past 3 weeks, the federal government has, in fact, gone to war against transgender children. And school board members like yourselves are on the front lines of that defense. And I realized that some of you may not personally know transgender kids and their families. And so my colleague Gracie and I tonight offer each of you a gift, a window into the experiences of trans kids. Trans Kids Are Kids was published last year, compiling a number of stories about how trans kids and their families have struggled to receive health care and mental health care as they have been targeted by discriminatory laws across the country. It tells the story of Lauren, who drove 5 hours in an ice storm to get her daughter to a doctor's appointment in Arkansas after her own home state of Oklahoma banned gender-affirming care. It tells the story of Becca and Mike, parents of 3 children who now have to split their family between Texas and California so that their teenager can get health care. Political refugees in America, where are their parental rights? It tells the story of Reverend Deborah Hoskins and Rabbi David Katz, who strive to create affirming faith communities that celebrate all of God's children. And it tells the stories of Jack and Cameron, Esme and Jaden and Eli, young trans activists who are fighting for their rights and fighting for their lives in Texas, Virginia, Utah, and South Carolina. In closing, I ask you again to support the MTAC's recommendation to restore student access to the EPIC Digital Library. And I hope that you will take the opportunity to read this book and allow these stories to give you a window into the lives of transgender students. They are counting on you to see them and to protect them. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Maddox, if you could please state your name and which district you live in.
Good evening. My name is John Maddox. My children attend Estes Elementary School, 2 of them, my 3 children. And I want to make clear, I'm here in my individual capacity. I'm not representing my employer. If you Google me, I don't want there any confusion about that. I'm here as a parent and representing a group of concerned parents regarding the district's continued use of these asynchronous remote learning days during inclement weather. Nearly 2 weeks ago, we sent a letter respectfully outlining our concerns about this policy, but we have not received a response. I hope you know I'm coming to you again respectfully, and I hope you return that respect by engaging with us on what is an incredibly important issue to our children. First and foremost, the current practice of designating days as asynchronous remote learning days is failing our children. Asynchronous assignments for younger students, often just a worksheet or very minimal online tasks, it simply can't replace a full day of in-person instruction. The idea that these remote learning assignments are a sufficient one-to-one substitute for a day of in-person learning is not up for serious debate. If they were equivalent, then the General Assembly would not limit the number of days school districts can utilize them. This allowance for numerous subpar learning days is particularly damaging for younger students in their formative years and those with IEPs or with limited home support. A missed day of real learning is a lost opportunity that many of these children just can't afford. I would therefore ask at a minimum that this board examine a real sample of the assignments provided to elementary school students. I trust that you will feel like I did when I saw what came home with my son and with my daughter, insulted at the level of instruction. And I realize that sounds histrionic. But when I'm asked to consider an assignment that takes a child 10 minutes to complete as the equivalent of a full day's worth of learning, I feel like the children and the parents are being disrespected. It's as if I'm being asked to go along with a lie. Like, this is the same thing. It's not. More than anything, this signals complacency with respect to my kids' education, all our kids' education, at a time when we should be focused on recovering for lost learning. I can't tell you what the pandemic did to kids, these small kids. My son was in starting kindergarten. He had 20 minutes a day in a room full of other children on Zoom, and that was supposed to be a day of learning. I realize my time is limited. I know the General Assembly said you can utilize a number of these days and that you're allowed to do it, but you don't have to do it. Just like you didn't have to mark those days for Helene as complete. I would ask you to please review that letter I sent and really engage with us on this and reconsider that policy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Fulton, if you could please state your name and which district you live in.
Hello, my name is Jim Fulton. I'm in District 4. We face serious challenges: unacceptable proficiency ratings, unexpected budget cuts, and unending transparency issues. Tonight, under the consent agenda, you will most likely approve discretionary spending on athletic capital outlay expenses. You are also poised to approve 3 construction projects totaling over $3 million. This is to improve the entrance and lobbies at 3 schools. School security is important. However, these projects are moving forward during a $4 million budget shortfall. If budget cuts are unavoidable, shouldn't the board work with county leaders to minimize harm from those cuts? Why not pause non-essential spending so reductions don't cost staff members or critical student resources? With county sales tax revenues impacted by Hurricane Helene, along with Article 39 funds, shouldn't these projects be delayed? How can you justify approving major construction projects while claiming project cuts will cause harm to schools? While claiming budget cuts will cause harm to schools. The Prismatic Consolidation study is also on tonight's schedule. I expect this board will fully embrace the study's recommendation against consolidation because it's best for students or because it protects your power and control from the State General Assembly. I wonder whether county commissioners or board members pressured Prismatic to oppose consolidation. Was the outcome predetermined? I don't know. You boast about rising graduation rates, yet proficiency scores stagnate or decline. This evening's proposed revision to Policy 3420 doesn't strengthen accountability. It creates a loophole through Policy 3405. I believe principals should be required to document every time they override proficiency standards to promote a student. Why are students being promoted if they haven't earned it? Well, maybe it's just an easy way to inflate high school graduation numbers. By taking the easy way out isn't helping our kids. Public education should be about outcomes, not optics. Thank you.
Thank you.
Natalie Dorsey, if you could please state your name and which district you live in.
Good evening, I'm Natalie Dorsey. I have a child at Hominy Valley Elementary and one at Inca Intermediate. I am part of a group called Public School Strong. Our mission is to fight for honest, equitable, safe, and fully funded public education. Funding-wise, it has been a hard school year with budget cuts both state and county level. But we will continue to fight side by side with our educators and with you for more funding. Tonight, I would like to talk about the safety piece of our mission. At a parent advisory council meeting I attended 3 years ago, there was a presentation regarding the mental health needs of students in Buncombe County coming out of COVID. There was a slide where someone trying to push a boulder up a hill and they explained that students were facing so much coming out of the pandemic that they were having a hard time being ready to learn. That like they were metaphorically having to push a boulder up a hill before being ready to learn. They explained how hard it was at the time to meet the mental health needs of all the students since families were going through so much. Here we are in 2025, and I feel like the hill and the boulder have gotten even larger for many families and students. We have students that are coming to school and do not feel safe. Some are afraid that EC programs are going to be cut. They are afraid that their family could be deported, or ICE could even come into their school, or they will be discriminated against based on their gender, sexual orientation, religion, or race. Unfortunately, these fears appear to be a future reality for many of our students and are too much for a child or teenager to deal with while trying to also learn. I was glad to hear about the statement put out by Dr. Jackson and our BCS saying that ICE could not enter our schools without a court order. And I'm here to urge you to continue to make decisions that make students feel as safe as possible during these challenging times. My cousin, who is fighting a terminal illness, has a goal to love more than judge. Sorry, let me restate that. Has a goal to love more and judge less. These words have really stuck with me since I have read them. I am asking you to vote for safe environment for all students whenever possible, and for all of us to make the decisions where we love more and judge less. I urge you to try to flatten the metaphorical hill and decrease the boulder size so that students can come to school able to focus on learning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anita Leese. Please remember to state your name and which district you live in.
Hello, Anita Leese, District 3. I was recently surprised to learn that all students are not required to take final exams in high school. As you know, students with an A and 4 absences, a B and 3 absences, or a C and 2 absences are permitted to abstain from final exams. The only final exams required are those required by the state in biology, math 1 and 3, and English 2. Taking a final exam is a learned skill. It changes the way that you take notes, the frequency with which you review those notes, and the mental energy expended actually learning the material, as opposed to just short-term recall. To become a plumber or an electrician, you must pass a state licensing exam. College and graduate schools require end-of-semester exams. I've heard that the board was attempting to motivate students to attend class and achieve good grades by allowing exam exemption, but by lowering the standard, you're not preparing them for their future. I contacted the school and asked if my daughters could audit the exams to test their knowledge. Per school policy, this was not an option. If they took the exams, the result would count for a grade. This is a disincentive for a student who has a good grade. In order to obtain some academic benefit during the exam days, I asked my daughters to attend the formal review sessions. During their first review session for a semester of high school civics, the teacher presented the class with a 20-question Kahoot game, which took 20 to 30 minutes and was followed by free time for the remaining 2.5 hours of the intended review session. So on top of days missed due to Hurricane Helene and multiple school cancellations due to weather, students have another 5 school days wasted without academic advancement. I also learned this year that AP classes, which appeared to be offered at Reynolds based on the website, are actually only offered if enough students sign up for the class. There should be structure in offering the AP classes on a sequential basis. For example, instead of offering both AP Biology and AP Chemistry every year and potentially canceling them both, alternate offering AP Biology and AP Chemistry so that students can get to take an AP class and can plan their schedules. An emphasis is placed on planning one's high school schedule, but it's very hard to plan when the AP classes that you sign up for may or may not be offered. Unfortunately, AP Statistics and AP Calculus will no longer be offered at Reynolds because more students are signing up for AB Tech Calc or Statistics. I called the admissions offices at Notre Dame, Duke, and Wake Forest. I asked what value they would place on AP Calculus versus AB Tech Calculus listed on a student transcript. They universally assigned far more value to the AP course because it is a standardized curriculum and exam with which they are familiar. They have no idea of the course content of AB Tech classes. While offering AB Tech classes provides a college-level option and is a positive for many, AP classes should still be offered for those students who want that challenge and evidence of academic excellence and achievement on their high school transcript. Thank you.
Thank you.
Soren Pedersen, if you could please state your name and which district you live in.
Hello, everybody. My name is Soren Pedersen. My mom is a teacher at the Leicester Elementary School. I don't need to read this to you because this is already one of the goals of the county schools, but I just want to pull out some points from the most recent strategic plan of the schools. And there's a phrase that really repeats over and over again as we talk about the different priorities, different goals, different targets of the school system. Every student. Every student will graduate on time. Buncombe County Schools will foster a culture of excellence where every student will thrive. Every student can succeed. All students need opportunities to collaborate. And this goes on and is expanded upon more in the strategic plan. I know that the county schools face a lot of challenges. I've spoken to members of this board and other members who are leaders both in the schools and our county government about the difficulties that the recent hurricane has caused and the other difficulties that come with inadequate support from our state government when it comes to making sure that all of the programs that our schools are trying to fund are fully funded. However, it seems like some of the people in this room who have spoken before me have put the weight of all of the things facing our schools on the back of students, especially students who are trans or who are non-citizens or who are in other minority group that are often blamed for the issues at large. And I find it ironic that these complaints are coming from the same groups of people who before the hurricane were saying that we need to defy the presidential executive rules, expanding anti-discrimination, and now come back and say, watch out, because the president now wants you to reintroduce those discrimination ordinances. The responsibilities of the schools are first and foremost to all of our students. Every single one, no matter what background they have, no matter who they identify as, no matter how they got to the school building. And to expand on the point about the lack of resources we have. I have been doing my best to follow the fact that a lot of the rainy day fund has been used to fund the county budget. But in the strategic plan, not only does it say that we need to support our schools, it says that that support needs to come from our exceptional educators. And it may not be a possibility right now, and I know I've said it before, but Buncombe is, of all of the counties in the state, the one with the largest gap between cost of living and teacher pay. And that means that we continue to lose teachers who are struggling just like our students and just like the rest of our community because they cannot afford to live here. And those are the same students, or excuse me, those are the same educators that are providing the resources and support to our students. So I ask that you continue to support our students and our teachers in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lessa Pedersen. Please state your name and which district you live in.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lissa Pedersen. That was my kid. Like him a lot. So I'm a school teacher at Leicester Elementary School, and I am so thrilled always to be a teacher and being privileged to teach our kids. I love our kids. I had an art class yesterday, or art club yesterday, that they were just beaming and thrilled, and we were making props and we were painting and we were all working together, and we didn't talk about any of the boogeyman that come up in, I hear it time after time, as it's this red herring, false fear factor that comes at our schools. It's about learning, it's about joy, it's about moving forward, it's about, as we said in our mission statement, we're fostering a culture of excellence and continuous improvement where every student will thrive and learn. It's important. And I'm here actually today to thank all of you, especially Dr. Jackson, for coming to the county commissioner meeting when they took away $5 million extra from Buncombe County schools and Asheville City schools, nearly $5 million because of Hurricane Helene. And the radical honesty you had to bring to them that if this underfunding continues, that we are going to lose staff from the excellent teachers who bring forward programming to all our schools in the school district. And that's super important. We are also, I'm saying this to the general world, that it is North Carolina in Raleigh that is underfunding our schools primarily. To reiterate, and people have heard it before, we rank 42nd in average teacher starting pay out of 50 states. We're 38th in average teacher pay. We're behind Virginia, South Carolina, and Georgia for teacher pay. But it's mostly about the kids. Per pupil spending, we're 48th out of 50 in the country on how we support our kids. And it's taxpayer-funded vouchers are taking money from our public schools. So you might have complaints about our public schools, but it's like having a really good soccer team or any team, and you are playing with less players than your opposing team. You are asking us to do more with less. I'm saying this to the general community, and I really appreciate when people in positions of power and have that statement say these things to the general public, that if you want us to be better, if you want our teachers to stay here, stay involved, go above and beyond, which we do every single day of the school day and through the summer, we need to support us with the money that it takes to support our children, all of our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members of the board, that concludes tonight's public comment.
Thank you very much. Board members, we will now move into our action agenda. First up this evening, the Inca High School. Bear with me one second. I want to pull up the full title of this. Inca High School entrance and lobby reconfiguration. Accept guaranteed maximum price, GMP, and authorize construction manager at risk, CMAR, to proceed. Mr. Clark Wyatt, I believe, is with us. I'm not sure if we'll need you or not, but board members, is there any discussion or any questions for Mr. Wyatt? There's 3 of these items for approval on our agenda related to entrance and lobby reconfigurations.
So do we want to talk about all 3 of them? Because I have one in there.
Okay. Well, you can make a motion first, and we can have discussion.
Well, I'll
after
make a
the second.
motion, we approve.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to approve the Inca High School initiative. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I want to speak to the lobby reconfiguration and the importance of having that in our schools. I happened to be at Johnston Elementary yesterday, and they're on the list. And will tell you that one of my biggest concerns is keeping our kids safe. And particularly in the Johnston school area, we do have a lot of things happen there that's unfortunate in that community, not in that school. However, we want to keep those kids safe. So while we can all argue over whether or not we should go forward with projects, keeping kids safe is one of my very top priorities. And I've seen the lobby reconfiguration work. It works very well at Irwin High School, West Buncombe, and now Johnston in need. And I just want to say publicly, that we need those. We need them in every school because that's what's going to keep our kids safe and not end up in a situation like many others that unfortunately have gone through terrible, terrible situations with kids and teachers getting hurt or killed. So thank you, Clark, and your team.
Board members, any other questions for Mr. Wyatt on this item?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Wyatt.
How are you?
So my question is, it looks like this recommendation, sorry, we need to spend more money on teaching new technology apparently, but if we accept this as proposed in the amount of 1.45 million, some change, it says that, we will be able to start this April 11th with the completion of August the 7th of this year. If we were to not approve this, what, with the cost, rising cost, and for me, concerns of tariffs and what we may be looking at with our workforce, what would be, in your thoughts, a realistic beginning and completion date if we held off?
So each of these projects we go through making sure we work with the school staff to understand if they can operate school while we're doing construction, because it's not a pleasant process. We have one going on right now at a high school, and so, it is still a very volatile construction time period, materials and labor. These projects have gone through the bid process, and they have been bid out, and if we postpone it, all of those, we'd have to start this whole process again. So not only would there's a potential for it to cost more money, there's a potential, we would have to pay our CMAR contractor additional money to go through this bid process again. It's a long process to get these numbers, and to talk about timing. I feel like we could still complete it in that given amount of time, no matter where we start and stop. But this one would need to start. We don't like to disrupt school on both the ending of school and the beginning of school. So if we started in spring break, as you notice, we're going to be finished prior to the next school year. So we're only disrupting school on one side of the summer break, if that makes sense.
It does.
I hope that answers your question.
It does, thank you.
These are previously approved projects, correct?
Correct, and they are, yes, they're all within budget as well.
Yeah, and they were, you're utilizing Article 39 funds?
Correct, that was allocated last funding cycle, last July.
Through the School Capital Fund Commission?
Correct.
Okay. And just for the benefit of the public, Article 39 is a special sales tax that was initiated by the General Assembly in the 80s, I believe, Dean? Martin Nesbitt actually went to bat for Buncombe County Schools to have this established as dedicated, restricted sales tax funding in Buncombe County that must be spent to improve our school facilities. So we have this school fund commission. We'll be appointing a new appointee to that commission here later on this evening. But it is capital. We can't use capital money to, say, offset teacher pay or.
That's correct. These funds are especially dedicated to maintain facilities and improve facilities.
Okay. And these will be the double vestibule style entryways that we started with the progress a few years ago.
Correct.
On that improvement. Okay. Thank you. Well, board members, I seek a motion to accept the GMP as proposed by Harper General Contractors in the amount of $1.454 million for Inca High School entrance and lobby reconfiguration, utilizing Article 39 funds previously approved for the project, and authorize the CMAR and architect to proceed with the construction phase based upon terms of their contracts with adjustments to reflect the proposed schedule and actual GMP at $1.454 million, sorry, $1,454,081. That was a lot. I'm seeking a motion from the board. You did move, and we already have a second. I read that for no reason. Thank you.
You're just restating the
Okay, I'm restating the motion. All right, now that we have second, discussion is over. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. The item is approved. The next item on the agenda is Johnson Elementary School, accept guaranteed maximum price, the GMP, and authorize the construction manager at risk, Seymour, to proceed. Board member, are there any questions for Mr. Wyatt? All right, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to accept this proposal. All right, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item is approved. Thirdly, here, North Windy Ridge Intermediate School, accept guaranteed maximum price GMP and authorize construction manager at risk Seymour to proceed. Board members, do you have any questions for Mr. Wyatt? Is there a motion to approve this item? Okay. Ms. Franklin, thank you for the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? Hearing none, all approve, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Wyatt.
Thank you.
Generous information. Next on the agenda is the appointment to the School Capital Fund Committee. Dean, do you have any feedback around this commission and our need to appoint a member?
So each board has one member that will, each board being the Asheville City Schools and the Buncombe County Board has one member that will attend these meetings. Certainly, somebody can sub if it is ultimately necessary if the elected member cannot attend. But generally, the board has elected one of its own members to attend. You could elect a staff member if you preferred, but generally you have elected, I know Max Queen, Pat Bryant, Amanda Simpkins has served, and who's been the most recent? Yep, and Mr. Elliott, thank you, have served on School Capital Fund Committee. It is important, I think, for the board to be represented there to ensure that you can help kind of usher in our projects that need to be completed, and same with Asheville City. So everybody has projects that need to be done, and as Mr. Elliott said, Article 39 is it is a sales tax that most counties have. But we are one of the few counties where we have it designated going to school capital funds based on some legislation in the 80s. So, yep. So you want me to do that?
Yeah,
sure. Yep. So we would just take nominations from, if there's anybody who would nominate a member to serve, or a non-member to serve too, if you prefer.
I'd like to nominate Kim Clemens to serve as our representative.
Okay. Do you accept that, Ms. Clemens? Yes. Yep. Does not need a second. Any other nominations? All right, I'll turn it over to you to vote on Ms. Clemens then.
Okay. We just saw it's very important what we spend these funds on and manage that very wisely. So that being said, we have a nomination on the floor that was accepted by Ms. Clemens to serve as the appointed member to the School Capital Fund Commission on behalf of the Buncombe County School Board. I would entertain a motion to approve this nomination.
So moved.
All right. Is there a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we have elected you, Ms. Clemens, to represent us on the School Capital Fund Commission. Thank you very much.
And I will spend money wisely. That's right.
Okay.
Yes, and you just said that.
Okay, thank you. Next on our action agenda this evening are policies to be rescinded. Following that, previous policies to be reinstated. The board will notice that these are the same policy numbers. At this time, I would like to recognize our policy committee chair, Greg Cheatham. who handled this process in the policy committee.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. I'd like to begin by recognizing our board attorney, Dean Shatley. He's going to review some of the legal actions that have taken place that preempted us to rescind the 2024 versions of these two policies and tonight reinstate the 2020 versions. So, Mr. Shatley, if you'll.
Thank you, Mr. Cheatham. Board members, on January 9th, a federal district court in eastern Kentucky entered an order vacating the 2024 Title IX regulations that was adopted by the Biden administration. If you remember, those regulations just had went into effect on August 1 after being promulgated in the spring. And so, but shortly, well, even before they went into effect and right after, there were several court cases around the country challenging whether or not those regulations were going too far in regards to Title IX and other, issues of federal jurisprudence. And so ultimately, during the fall, there were several stays on the implementation of Title IX that were impacting states across the country. I believe there were 5 lawsuits with multiple states involved. North Carolina was not involved in any of the lawsuits, but however, a suit in Kansas did impact us, if you will remember. It put a stay on the implementation of those rules for schools that had members of certain organizations. I think there were 3 different organizations, and one was Moms for Liberty. And we have several schools that were ultimately on the injunction list as having students whose parents were members of that organization. But not all of our schools did. And so at that point in time, the board adopted an interim policy which tried to kind of just go between the 2020 and the 24 regs, since we had schools that were on the list and schools that were not. Well, the January 9th order takes it much further than a stay. The 9th order completely vacates the 24 Title IX regulations. Certainly the Department of Ed could have appealed that, but with the change in administration, they're not going to do that. And in fact, the new Department of Education administration has indicated that they will continue to enforce the 2020 regulations, right? And so we brought forward a recommendation to the policy committee and now bring it forward to the board that we rescind the interim Title IX policies, which Title IX policy and grievance process, and reinstate the Title IX policies that were in compliance with the 2020 regulations, if that makes sense. And so really it is 2 policies, the same number. The ones that we are asking to be re-implemented or reinstated are exactly the same as they were prior to you adopting the interim policies in the fall. I will take special note that most of the changes here are really in the grievance process, and it's really just what process we use to investigate claims of sexual harassment. The 2024 regs certainly had a broader definition of sexual harassment, and the 2020 regs have a much higher bar on what is or is not sexual harassment. And certainly while we will live by that rule in regards to Title IX, that just means what process we use when we are investigating those types of complaints. It still doesn't mean that we allow behavior to go on that is bullying, harassing, or discriminatory. It just means what type of policy or what process do we use when we investigate it. And so keep that in mind as well. And so I would ask Mr. Chairman and Mr. Cheatham too, that we have 2 motions eventually, if this is what the board would like to do. The first is to rescind the interim Title IX policies. The second would be to waive first reading and reinstate the previous Title IX policy. So I would ask that you do that in 2 motions. I think it might make it a little cleaner and easier so nobody gets too jumbled up. Mr. Cheatham, I'll turn it back over to you, but I'm also happy to answer any other questions.
Okay. Were there any other questions from board members? Okay. But before our motions, just to be clear though, the new versions of the policies, they follow current law.
Correct.
Okay.
The new old versions, you mean?
The new old versions.
Yeah, the ones that you will be voting back in, yes, they follow the 2020 regulations. They are in compliance, which are in force and in effect.
Okay. Then I make a motion, first of all, that we rescind the Title IX policies 1725 and 1726.
I think one option for you, policy 1725, 4035, 7236, that lengthy numerical title there, interim Title IX, prohibited conduct and reporting process, policy 1726, 4036, 7237, interim Title IX, grievance process. Your motion could be to rescind the interim Title IX policies as stated, both of them at the same time. I think you were going that direction, right?
That's
Just
correct.
want to clarify the motion.
Okay, so my motion is to rescind the interim policies 1725 and 1726. You have to read all those numbers. I'll read the rest of the numbers.
Okay, good.
My motion is to rescind policy 1725, 4035, 7236, interim Title IX, prohibited conduct and reporting process, and policy 1726, 4036, 7237, interim Title IX, grievance process.
Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion from the board? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Regarding the policies to be reinstated, I'll entertain a motion to waive the first reading and reinstate Title IX policy 1725, 4035, 7236, and 1726, 4036, and 7237. Again, motion is to waive the first reading and reinstate those policies. So moved. Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. These policies have been reinstated. Thank you, Mr. Cheatham, for your service as chairman of the policy committee. Next on our action agenda is the District Media and Technology Advisory Committee, the MTAC recommendation, Epic Creations Incorporated. We have Dr. Reed here with us. If board members have any requests for discussion around this item.
I have one.
Dr. Reed, did you have anything that you wanted to clarify on this for first, or are you just available for some questions?
I'm certainly happy to entertain any questions that the board might have.
Okay, thank you. We'll just proceed.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. I think it's important for everyone here, if you could please just summarize the process that our district and our MTAC committees have gone through from the suspension of EPIC until today's recommendation.
Mhm. Sure. I'll be happy to kind of review that process with you all. So there was a decision before the start of school that EPIC would be limited to teacher use. And between then and the hurricane, and up until the month of December and into January, Dr. Jackson had asked our district MTAC team to review that decision, which was done with the district MTAC team in January at its regular meeting. And during that meeting, the members of the team who were present there were asked if they had any additional questions or clarifications, or did they need any additional information to make a recommendation to the board. So their task at the January meeting was to come up with a recommendation or a set of recommendations to the board, or they also could have explored different avenues for gaining additional information prior to making a recommendation. The MTAC committee at that time, which is made up of 55 stakeholders, there's at least one representative from every one of our schools in the system, ranging from parents to teachers to media specialists to school administrators, and also some district staff as well, where we're asked to make that recommendation at that meeting. So at the meeting itself, the team did come up with a couple different recommendations. One was to reinstate EPIC for student use with an accompanying set of guidelines for our staff to use. if EPIC were to be reinstated. So this evening, the district MTAC meeting is coming with that recommendation to reinstate EPIC for student use alongside a set of guidelines that has been shared with the board.
Mr. Chair, I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
We've heard a lot, we've had a lot of feedback regarding this, and I want folks to know we have listened to the concerns that parents have had when we stopped the usage of EPIC for our kids. So I think it's important for the public to know that we do listen to your feedback and do what's right for kids. And so I support Dr. Reed and the MTAC decision. Would you like for me to make a motion?
Yeah, did anybody else, Greg, did you have any other questions for Dr. Reed?
No, just to say thank you for being so thorough, and thank you for including parents and teachers who are the experts on what their kids read. And so I've seen the list of guidelines for teachers to use. It seems very clear. So thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. All right, then, yeah, Ms. Clemens, I'll entertain that motion.
Okay.
Got a question for you.
Oh, sorry.
What I want to explain is make sure that we highlight number 6, customized report parameters. After speaking to EPIC, EPIC said the most problem that parents have and what we do, we don't go in and set parameters for our kids to understand what they can see and what they cannot see. So the fail proof is that every parent, if you set up your own personal account, and with our teachers, they already have that parameter in there for our kids not to see certain things. But I think most of the confusion is coming from the public when parents buy their own account. It is required, it is a must that you go in and set those parameters where you tell your kids what they can and cannot see, even down to certain categories. So that will eliminate some of the confusion if we highlight that to our parents when they have their own accounts to say, hey, this can stop most of the issues that you see.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I would like to make a motion that we accept the MTAC recommendation to reinstate EPIC.
Second.
Thank you for the second. Any discussion? Yes.
Just one more thing. If we approve the reinstatement, what's the timeline for educators?
So District MTAC recommended that we make that just as soon as possible. So as soon as I know the board's desire with this particular motion, we'll get moving just as quickly as we can. I imagine that will be in the matter of a week or less.
Okay. Does that mean apps will need to be pushed out onto devices or?
EPIC is a web-based platform.
Okay.
And so it's pretty easy. It's either all on or it's all off.
Yes, ma'am.
Just one further question while you're there.
Sure.
Thank you. First of all, thank you again for the sort of diligence in the work that you do with the MTAC committee. Like their point is, the purpose really is around this concept of, you know, the resources that we have in front of our students are developmentally appropriate, grade level, in all ways appropriate, and functioning well, right, for learning. And so I just want to say thank you for all of this process and diligence around being careful. It's a good thing. The question is on the guidelines. I presume, right, these guidelines can, as this platform or other platforms shift, these types of guidelines that help our teachers in the classroom, you know, use these tools well for learning. Will the MTAC be a part of sort of like helping with these guidelines in any way? Like if something changes with EPIC or if an issue arises, this is kind of part of the MTAC thing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So if an issue were to come up, we could route that through MTAC for discussion and conversation. The guidelines themselves really put the teacher in that decision-making role where they already are about what's developmentally appropriate for students. So they really are simply guidelines for best practices. But if there are any questions or any changes with the platform itself, we certainly will route those through our district MTAC team.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Reed. and the MTAC committee. Next on the action item agenda is the discussion of the school consolidation report. Board members, we have been through an extensive process over the last year, working with Buncombe County government and Nashville City Schools through Prismatic Services, the consultant that was hired to perform the school consolidation study that was mandated by law, I guess a year and a half ago, 2023 timeline. We've had a joint session with Buncombe County Commissioners and Asheville City Schools together, and heard a presentation from the consultant about really a deep dive into the consolidation study, followed by a lot of good discussion by all three boards. And so I thought it would be important for us to have this as an action item agenda. There are a couple of items where we need to wind up, right? So there was a recommendation in the study that was the kind of the high-level end recommendation for our school systems to not consolidate for various reasons. So I'll be looking for some general consensus that we accept the results of the study. And then also we have been offered the ability to sign on to a joint letter in collaboration with Asheville City Schools to craft a letter jointly to respond to the General Assembly to say that we have met the requirements that were stated in the law that was passed, directed at us, to have this study done, so that we followed the requirements of that law and that we effectively accept the recommendation as presented in the study. So that's the end goal with this action item this evening. And so, but before we get there, I just wanted to open the floor up for any thoughts, any further discussion or questions about the consolidation study, or any takeaways from the board members for the benefit of the public.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to say that I appreciate having had the opportunity for us to have conversations amongst all of these entities who are involved, the Asheville City Schools, the commissioners, and ourselves. I think it was a healthy discussion and one I believe that we can build on in days to come. I appreciate that. And certainly the work of Prismatic, we don't want to have that go unnoticed. They worked really hard to compile this information, and I feel like it's heading in a direction that we all could probably collaborate and be on board with. So thank you for that opportunity to all those who were involved.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Mr. Cheatham.
Well, I just wanted to say for those who hadn't read the study, some big takeaways were that the study could find no clear path to improving student achievement, and that was something that our communities all put first when we looked at the study. Second was, the study couldn't find many ways that we would be saving a lot of money. And so a lot of times consolidation is about money. In this case, the study could not show significant savings by consolidating the school systems. And finally, based on the surveys and the parent nights, there just wasn't a real strong support in our communities to support consolidation. And I think those are three really powerful takeaways that I know we've discussed as a board, but I think that's what we should focus on.
Other board members, Mr. Martin.
We'll piggyback on with Greg, but a little bit opposite with Prismatic report states that education and the achievement gap will not improve if we merge together. But it's something that we need to do as a board and partnering with Dr. Jackson and his team to ensure that education is at the forefront of all of our minds, the community, parents, the board, school systems, teachers. It takes all of us to raise our kids, and we must do that as a community regardless of what goes on in each of individual lives. I think it's a shame that Prismatic would have to say that they don't see any improvement that would take place in our school systems. For something that has been going on for the past 20 years or 25 years should not be the state of the day. As Elliot said, that I am the first black after 1971. I was born in 1971. And that speaks a lot of volume on what we need to improve on as a school system. And as Soren talked about, we need to make sure we focus on all kids. I don't care what color you are, I don't care what background you came from, I don't care what house you live in. I think Prismatic is telling us that we need to improve as a community, we need to improve as a school board. And I challenge each and every school board member and challenge Dr. Jackson on these matters that we need to move forward and find ways to help our kids to be better, to prepare them for their future, prepare them to get to college, and we need to make sure our teachers are following that same instructions that we have given from the board to him to take place. So I think in the future, accountability has to come, and we're gonna make some hard decisions as a board. We're gonna make hard decisions to make some changes, because there are some things in this report that a lot of people did. They went to page chapter 6 and then read 1 through 5. And all the meat is between 2 and 5. 6 just give you the recommendation. But if you look at it, I think between both school systems, in the next 5 to 10 years, we're gonna see some things that's gonna force us to change. And while it might force us to consolidate, it might even do that as well. But we need to be prepared to not focus on what schools we go through. Listen, I am a proud Rocket. I'm a proud Oakley school person. I grew up in that district. I'm proud to be a Rocket. But there's going to be some times in our lives where we're going to have to say, for the betterment of every child to get an education, we have to move away from school systems and the school districts to make sure that we are adequately making sure education is every single district in this county and make sure it takes place. Do I agree with Prismatic? No. Do I think in the future we're going to be forced to deal with some things? Yes, I do. And I think it's going to happen in the next 5 years, that we're going to have to look at some things financially, we're going to have to look at some things educationally, and God forbid, if God sent another storm in this area, it will force us to go even further quicker. So I think Helene is going to force us to make decisions that we need to make as a school district. Get behind your get behind your teachers, get behind your principals in the community, get behind the board. We need to come together. We all got different opinions on everything, but we can come together to make a solution that says, my child graduated. And that's what I can say about my child when she graduated from TC. She graduated. I got one more. He's going to graduate. He came to me, he told me, he said, Daddy, guess what? I'm going to graduate early, just like Hannah and everything else. And I'm proud of that they will walk out of school early because I know they're getting the education that they need. Even though they're not rockets, but it makes me happy to understand that when they leave here, they have the proper education that this board can supply them.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Any other board member feedback around the consolidation study? Okay, hearing none, I will just chime in briefly. I think there were a lot of highlights in this study that are important for the public to read. There are links to this study, I believe, on the Buncombe County government webpage and also on our own webpage. There's a link to it in our agenda. I think one of the things that really struck me was in the community engagement piece where they had, I forgot the total number, 18 or 20, I guess, community engagement sessions across a period of time out in our community at our schools, and a virtual one as well. But the feedback from parents and students is what really stuck out to me first, and perhaps I think a contributing factor to why there was not a recommendation strongly to consolidate is that the perception of parents' responses when asked about their child's school, the percent who agreed or strongly disagreed for ACS and BCS that their child's school is a great place to learn was over 87% for both school systems. So parents feel like their schools are a good place to learn. When they were asked if they felt that they had great teachers, 90% in Buncombe County schools of those parents responded that they felt that their children had access to great teachers. And so there is a great community perception within the school population of both ACS and BCS. So I think that speaks to a bit of the hunger in the community of whether or not to merge. Is they're already fairly satisfied. There's always room to grow. But those are pretty high marks, and I think that's commendable for the history of this board, and the history of our school system. And I think we should be proud of that, and we should always work to improve that for sure. Let's get to 100%. But that was one thing I noticed. As Mr. Cheatham noted, the cost savings for taxpayers out of this study were effectively less than 1% of our own total school budget. And that speaks very highly to the fact that we are, comparably to other systems in the state of North Carolina, we are a very lean school system from a staffing perspective in central office and a staffing perspective in our schools. So there is just not a lot of, in the corporate world that I live in, we refer to that as synergy savings, where you're combining two companies or something and you don't need, the same two executives doing the same job. So one of them goes and you save money there. We're not overstaffed. We are a very lean organization, and so there's just not a lot of opportunities for taxpayer savings by merging two very lean systems. Those are a few things that stood out to me. So with that, board, I would just like to get a sense from you that there is a general consensus that we accept the recommendations of the consolidation study. You can just go with a head nod, it's fine. Mr. Martin? Okay. All right, good. And I agree as well. And in that case, I would just, again, like some consensus around for us to pursue a joint collaborative letter, high level, with Asheville City Schools to communicate that we've met the requirements of the law and that we accept the recommendation of the study and that we will work together to serve the students of the county going forward. We will need to work with some wording on that letter, so we don't have it ready for some vote or approval, but just want consensus to work on that.
So can you just share the next steps in terms of we have to send the report in tomorrow. So could you just explain what's the next step?
Sure. So the county, I believe, is sending the report in, if it hasn't already. I have informally given it to our two senators.
Okay.
Where the legislation came from. So they have it as well, but I think the county is officially sending it in tomorrow to the appropriate committee. So the legislation says that both boards would make a recommendation. Now, obviously, Prismatic has a recommendation too, and so, which was not to consolidate, but I do think the board has the opportunity to give its recommendation to the General Assembly as well. And so I think that's based on the consensus here tonight. I think the next step would be for drafting a letter, and if you want to draft one, as Mr. Elliott had recommended, along with Asheville City, a joint letter saying both boards accept this recommendation as well, I think would be the next step.
And then what does the General Assembly,
I have no idea.
So it's there and.
Yep. And so really there are only three ways in which school boards in the same county can consolidate.
Okay. That's
So the county commissioners can order it. The boards can request it themselves, and there's a specific process that you have to go through to do that through DPI. And three is through legislative act by the General Assembly. And so based on the consensus of both your board and Asheville City, I don't think you two are going to say, let's consolidate.
Right.
The county could do it, but the county, there's a catch to that one, where the county would have to fund at the higher rate all the new consolidated district. And so that's not, obviously it's not feasible if they're cutting your funds right here in the middle of the school year. But the county has, I think, accepted the Prismatic recommendation too. So the only way to do it would be the General Assembly. I would hope that the General Assembly, with recommendations from Prismatic, the county, and both school boards not to consolidate, that the General Assembly would not consolidate either.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
Will there need to be a motion to compile the joint letter?
Procedurally, no, I don't think so. Dean, do you?
No, I mean, it seems that that's the board's consensus. I mean, it doesn't bother me if there is a motion, but I think if that's what the board would like us to do, then that's what we will move towards.
Would you like to make a motion, Mr. Cheatham?
Not if consensus is fine.
Okay, that's fine. I will say the other opportunity for us, a little bit further down the road, as Mr. Martin mentioned, there are a lot of opportunities presented in this study, right, for us to work on, both independently as Buncombe County Schools and collaboratively with Asheville City Schools that will benefit students across our county. It is important that we recognize what those opportunities are, and that we work on them, right, just as Mr. Martin said. So we do have the opportunity, if we want to take it, as Dean mentioned, as a third step, a little bit further down the road, if we want to craft our own independent letter from Buncombe County Schools that may be a little bit more detailed, to say, like, here's what we took out of this study as Buncombe County Schools, and here's what we're committed to working on with our administration and in collaboration with ACS. But that could be a more internal look and more of an internal letter, in addition to the collaborative letter that I'm talking about. So with that, if there's no further discussion, I think we can move on. All right, thank you, Board. Moving on to the consent agenda. We have minutes for January 9th, 2025, open session regular meeting. Minutes January 16th, 2025, joint meeting. Minutes February 3rd, 2025, special called work session. Personnel report February 13th, 2025. 2024-2025 budget amendment number 3. 2024-2025 summer program plan. Owen High School request to use capital athletic capital outlay funds. North Buncombe High School request to use capital athletic outlay funds. Advisory council members for approval. And policy for ratification, policy 4120R, admission of foreign exchange students. Board members, I'll ask if there's any need to pull any item out of the consent agenda for any further discussion. Hearing none, I will say this, I always say it about advisory council members for approval, because I know that there are hundreds of parents and teachers and administrators out there in our school system that join advisory councils in our schools on behalf of the board. These are board advisory councils to give us feedback about what's important to them, what's working well, and where the opportunities of improvement are. It's a lot of time within our school community contributed to this, and I very much appreciate it. I just want to say that for the benefit of the public as well. I think Reynolds High School may have the record for the largest advisory council in the county, which is very ambitious, and I think adding a few more here. So thank you for that. With that, I will entertain a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda, please. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. Up next on the information agenda, we have finance reports, policies for first reading, policy 3420, student promotion and accountability, policy 3460, graduation requirements. Announcements and future meetings. The Board of Education will hold a special called budget work session on February the 25th, 2025 at 4 p.m. in the Yeager Room at 175 Bingham Road, Asheville, North Carolina. The Board of Education will hold a special called budget work session on March the 6th, 2025 at 3 p.m. in the Yeager Room at 175 Bingham Road, Asheville, North Carolina. And the next Board of Education regular meeting is March the 6th, 2025. Work session updates and closed session beginning at 4 p.m. in the Executive Conference Room, and the open session beginning at 5:30 p.m. in the Minitorium at 175 Bingham Road, Asheville, North Carolina. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.